Hi, I'm Jim Paolino, CEO of Lodestar Software Solutions and the host of Lodestar's Landing Leaders. On this podcast, we bring in thought leaders from across the real estate industry and occasionally outside of it to have conversations that are insightful, interesting, and impactful. Let's get started. Hi, everyone. Welcome to Lodestar's Landing Leaders. Today, we have a very special guest and a little bit of a detour based off the typical things that we cover. Our guest today is Anh-Thu Nguyen. She is the founder and president of an organization that Lodestar is supporting, Asian Women in Aerospace and Aviation. She is a pilot, a doctoral candidate in aerospace engineering at Georgia Tech, founder of the nonprofit Asian Women in Aerospace and Aviation that I just mentioned, and she is currently planning to be the 9th woman to circumnavigate the globe solo, flying, obviously. So just have to do that. So, Anh-Thu, thank you so much for coming on the podcast. Really excited to talk about something way different than we typically cover here.
Thank you, Jim. I want to thank you, and I want to thank Lodestar for being a bronze sponsor to our organization and for allowing me to share my story, my passion for aviation, and my mission to empower and inspire more Asian women, and in general inspire others to follow their dreams in aviation or their dreams in life in general. So I appreciate this opportunity.
Well, we're happy to have you. And something that we talk about so much is the importance of role models in our industry. And you're doing so much within aviation to be a role model for Asian Americans, for women throughout the globe. So it's just so inspiring to see. But to get started, what made you want to be a pilot in the first place?
I think it starts with a lot of passion and desire. I was born in a small village, in a rural village in the middle and south central region of Vietnam. And I lived there until I was 12 years old. And we didn't have electricity until I was 11. So you can imagine living in this sort of primitive lifestyle, but I had airplanes fly above me. And that was just so captivating and so fascinating. And I was always looking up, but I think that was just so out of my reach, or out of any child's reach in that sort of environment, but I had that dream and I had that desire that one day, if only I could touch that plane, only I could be at the controls. But again, that was just something so unbelievable, and then so when I came to the United States when I was 12 years old, I told a few friends that I had this passion for aviation, and immediately I was discouraged, and immediately I was told that, oh, your dream will change as you grow up, something like that. But it never changed. When I was 16 years old, I told my dad I wanted to join the Air Force. But obviously, my dad is a very conservative Vietnamese man, Asian man, and immediately he said that was not an option for me. So at 16 years old, there's not much you can do, But when I turned 18, guess what? I took it into my own hands. I enrolled myself in a flight school, and and I went on from there. But it was not without struggles. Yeah.
And then even from the time you enrolled in flight school, then how do you go from beginning to start that to actually becoming a licensed pilot, to then even going a step further and saying, hey, I'm going to be the 9th woman ever to fly around the globe?
Right. So when I started flight school, I was only, I think, 18 or 19 years old. I was making $6 an hour. And flight lessons were costing between $150 to $200 an hour. So you can imagine how many hours I had to work. I had to work all week so that I could fly for 1 hour.
Wow. Talk about a passion.
So that's passion and determination for you. And it takes typically 40 hours is a requirement for you to become a pilot. But the national average is about 65 hours. But for me, I had such a struggle. My family didn't have the financial resources for me to do this, and they were not supporting me. So I had to do all of this by myself. And being in college, I had a scholarship to go to Purdue, but it was for mathematics. It was not for aviation. So I had to study math. And then on the side, I wanted to do this because this is my real passion. So at one point, I I didn't have anything else to rely on. I had to sleep in my car.
Mm-hmm.
Had to sleep at the airport. I
Mm-hmm.
mean, it was a hard journey, and it took me actually 8 years to get my first license.
Wow.
And normally, it should only take you 6 months.
Mm-hmm.
But facing all the financial struggles was what took me so long. Yeah, and then finally, when I got a job after graduating from college, that was when I could get my license. And
Mm-hmm.
when I got my first job, it only took me 3 months to get my license.
Oh, wow. That's
Yeah.
amazing. Mm-hmm.
So I think having that support system and having the financial resources are very, very important to the success of a pilot.
Mm-hmm. And then once you got your license, your pilot license, what was the journey then from that point to where you are now, to founding your organization, to, taking up the cause that you're supporting now?
So after I got my license, I think it's every pilot's dream to do this fly around the world, right?
Mm-hmm.
And I started thinking about it about I want to say about 7-8 years ago when I read a story about another Earth rounder
Mm-hmm.
who wanted to do this, and I thought, wow, this is such an inspirational journey, and being an Asian American, being Vietnamese American, I think I've had so many struggles in
Mm-hmm.
terms of visibility and discrimination. And I wanted to be that voice to the next Asian girl who wants to do this. I wanted to be
Mm-hmm.
that inspiration for someone who looks like me, and I can give you an example. One time I was at an airport
Mm-hmm.
and I was instructing in my uniform like this, and an Asian girl approached me, and she was basically screaming and hugging me. She was so
Mm-hmm.
excited to see me. She's like, "You're Asian, you have long hair, and you're an instructor." Like that was just
Yeah.
beyond her imagination.
Mm-hmm.
And with that excitement, I think that's like the positive encouragement for me to want to outreach globally,
Mm-hmm.
to impact more young lives like that.
Mm-hmm.
And another story is when I was going through an FBO, which is a fixed base operator for small airplanes, and the doors didn't open for me,
Mm-hmm.
and and I thought the sensors were not working, but that
Mm-hmm.
wasn't the case. The doors
Mm-hmm.
didn't open because the clerk didn't think I was a pilot, so
Mm-hmm.
I was not allowed to go through the doors, you know? And so
Mm-hmm.
I had to be checked. Although I was in uniform, I had to be checked. And
No.
I think that's because there's not enough visibility.
Mm-hmm.
So these two things really encouraged me to come up with this with my nonprofit organization, which is to
Mm-hmm.
create more visibility, create more of us, more Asian
Mm-hmm.
women, and I think that's going to have a huge impact on the next generation.
Mm-hmm.
The more children see people who look like them, I think that's going to be an important factor in supporting their future.
No, absolutely. And talking a little about that struggle, and that's such a shame, the things that you had to deal with to get to this point. But just a testament to your resiliency. Do you feel like that's gotten even more challenging in the last year?
I think I think so. The last year has
Hmm.
had a lot of impacts on many many lives. I think even
Hmm.
for Asian Americans who are at the highest positions. For me, I've been harassed
Hmm.
and attacked. Walking down the streets last year. Which is something that I didn't think about, and it's something
Hmm.
that didn't become so obvious to me. But
Hmm.
but I think it matters that Asian people, Asian women specifically, have a voice.
Hmm.
We need to be seen as powerful. We need to be seen as
Hmm.
influential, so that we're not being stereotyped
Hmm.
or objectified as something that we're not.
Hmm. I mean, I think on the other side, they're just people have to just I don't know. It's ridiculous just to think of how that blame gets shifted towards different groups and
Right.
what's happening. You mentioned a lot about role models and truly being one now. Growing up, did you have role models that made you think you could be a pilot, or were you just the whole time picturing yourself as that role model, kind of future Anh-Thu as that person?
I think growing up, I didn't have a female figure as a
Hmm.
role model because in my family, in my community, women are not encouraged, are not supported to pursue
Hmm.
something outside of the home. So I think it
Mm-hmm.
was very challenging for me to think out of the box. Although I
Mm-hmm.
was always thinking out of the box, even as a child, I wanted to do things differently, but I was always being suppressed. I was always
Mm-hmm.
being put into the box, which I fought to get outside of.
Yeah.
And I think for any girl, for any child, especially Asian woman living in this stereotype society, we need to
Mm-hmm.
have that support system for us to grow personally and professionally. Not
Mm-hmm.
having that system for me just took so much longer for me to
Mm-hmm.
get to where I am.
And what kept you going during that time? Was it just every time you got to be in the air that just kind of justified everything that you were going through? Like, what was the thing that motivated you through that?
Even as a child, I always had this passion,
Yeah.
and determination came with this passion, because I
Mm-hmm.
knew I didn't have anyone or anything to rely on. I knew it
Mm-hmm.
was just me, and I started flying even before social media and the internet. So
Mm-hmm.
I didn't have any connections, no network. So it was very, very challenging. But I knew in my heart that this is what I wanted to do for the rest
Mm-hmm.
of my life, and there's no one else to do it for me but me.
Mm-hmm.
So you just
Yeah.
you just have to follow your dreams, and whatever you can envision,
Mm-hmm.
you can achieve, and I believe
Mm-hmm.
in it.
That's it's just such an amazing message. So tell me a little bit more about Asian women in aerospace and aviation. When did you start it? What the organization looks like? The types of things that you're working on?
So Asian Women in Aerospace and Aviation has several pillars to our nonprofit organization.
Mm-hmm.
One is to promote the education of young Asian women in aerospace and aviation. We want to
Mm-hmm.
create more visibility, awareness, and empowerment for opportunities in aerospace and aviation. We want to inspire the next generation of Asian female pilots and aerospace engineers through education, activities, and mentoring. And we want
Mm-hmm.
to provide opportunities to those interested through science, technology, engineering, aviation, and
Mm-hmm.
mathematics through classes, flight training, and mentoring. And I think these opportunities will encourage and empower more Asian women to get into these fields. As these are the least diverse fields in the industries right
Mm-hmm.
now.
Yeah, as an engineer myself, I can certainly attest to that. And I was shocked to see too, in the information you provided, that only 6% of all pilots are women. And I'm sure
Right.
the Asian women within that is even tinier of a fraction, of
It's
course.
less than
Mhm.
1%.
Yeah.
Right.
Hmm.
Mhm.
And so, what from starting the organization, from getting your pilot license, at what point did you think that being a would you say an earth rounder? I didn't know that was a term, so I'm excited to use it. At what point did you say, like, this is something that I not only want to do but think I can do?
So in 20, I've started thinking about this seriously in 2018. And in
Mm-hmm.
2019, I formalized the organization officially. And I think the two issues that I mentioned to you before, being discriminated, and
Mm-hmm.
also on the negative side of things, and on the positive side, I was getting all this support whenever a young girl would see me. So these things really encouraged me to think that this is something that I need to do to get
Mm-hmm.
that, not just locally, but to get that global outreach. And as we were discussing earlier, my message, my story has inspired millions,
Mm-hmm.
millions of people, to pursue their dreams, especially in aviation. So I think
Mm-hmm.
it's a great message to send to people,
Mm-hmm.
people who find my story very relatable,
Mm-hmm.
because I think every one of us needs some inspiration at some point in our life to get through the obstacles that we're facing.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, even once we have an employee who's a friend of yours who sent this information to us, and we were so excited to become a
Thank
supporter
you.
early on. But I remember just staring at the map of what it's going to look like to go around the world. I would love to hear a little bit about that, of how you plan, how you train, how many days is it going to take? Because I was just kind of looking at all the different points, looking at the different legs. Would love to hear a little more about what that actually looks like, just logistically.
So logistically, I can tell you a bit about our flight.
Mhm.
It's about 26,000 nautical miles, and
Mhm.
I'm proposing to take off approximately on May 15, 2022. And
Mhm.
I'm going to start from Atlanta, Georgia, going through
Mhm.
Boston to Goose Bay, Canada, to
Hmm.
Greenland, Iceland, basically eastbound to
Hmm.
Madrid, Naples, and going through Asia, and
Hmm.
and then going back to my village where I
Oh,
was
wow.
born. Yes, in Vietnam, and
Hmm.
then from there going to Honolulu,
Hmm.
and then back to Los Angeles, and then Denver, and then Atlanta, Georgia.
Hmm.
And the longest leg is going to be the leg from Honolulu to California. And I'm going to be crossing North America, Europe, Asia, and
Hmm.
Australia.
And how long is that longest leg?
So that longest leg is about 2,100 nautical miles,
Hmm.
and we're guesstimating that will take me about 10 hours.
Oh, wow. It's
Hmm.
a lot of flight time. And how many from start to finish, from taking off in Georgia, going eastbound, and then coming back? How long does that take? Not quite around the world in 80 days, I'm guessing.
It's gonna we're planning for about 45 days, and that would take into account the flight time as well as the
Hmm.
time that I'm gonna take on the ground to do outreach opportunities to youngers.
Hmm.
I think it's very important for them not just to hear my story, but to see me, to see the
Hmm.
airplane, and hopefully I can show them the airplane and what it's like and what it's like to sit at the controls. And I think that would encourage the girls to have the inspiration.
Hmm. Oh, I mean, that's absolutely wonderful. It was so cool just to see what that's looking like. I couldn't even wrap my head around kind of something like that and taking that journey. So, you go, you spend 45 days, you circumnavigate the globe. You're working on getting a doctoral or a PhD in aerospace engineering. What happens after that? What's your vision for, going beyond, finishing that journey, finishing your degree, growing the organization? What does that look like in beyond 2022?
Thank you for asking me that. So I have a
Hmm.
goal for the organization, and our goal basically is to increase the number of Asian women in aerospace and aviation. As you know,
Hmm.
these numbers are very low in these fields. So
Hmm.
ideally I like to train about 100 Asian women per year
Hmm.
to get their license. And I think the FAA average is, if I'm not wrong, 500 women pilots per year. And I want to contribute to that growth because
Wow.
historically,
Hmm.
we have just occupied 5% of
Hmm.
the pilot population. And I think that
Hmm.
number has been consistent during the last 5, 10 decades. It's been like
Hmm.
that forever. So I think whatever we can do to enhance that number, to increase that number, is going to be powerful for us as a community.
Hmm. Well, that makes a ton of sense. Kind of to wrap things up a little bit, if someone wants to support the organization, support you, find out more information, what's the easiest place to find you?
So the easiest place to find me would be on my Instagram account, and it's
Hmm.
pilot uh, underscore ANH underscore THU. That's
Hmm.
my name, and also you can Google Asian woman in aerospace and aviation, or you can
Hmm.
go to awa2.org.
Hmm.
And there are different opportunities for people who want to sponsor me or make donations to the organization. You can do it through the GoFundMe page. You can search for
Hmm.
Asian Pilot on GoFundMe, and
Hmm.
you'll find me. Or you can also
Great.
donate through our website.
We'll be linking to all of this as well, and doing our whatever we can to help promote it. And I'm
Thank
very
you.
excited to follow you in about a year as you're doing this journey and updating, and have the little map like at Christmas Eve of where the world is Santa. It's going to be where in the world is Anh-Thu as you're going along. So
Thank you
I'm
so much.
already excited for
Thank
it.
you
But
so much.
metaphorically landing the plane here. Is there anything else you want to touch on? Anything else you want to mention before we end the interview?
Yes, so we're always looking for volunteers and
Hmm.
sponsors and donors. So if anyone thinks that you could be a support to the organization in terms of technical abilities or marketing or any skill set that you have that you think is beneficial to our organization, I would appreciate you reaching out to us so that you could help us grow. And financially, obviously, we're looking for sponsors and donors, and anything that we can get is going to be beneficial for us as our organization increases in numbers and opportunities for students.
Perfect. And you had mentioned before kind of some of the sponsors and people that you already had supporting the organization. I was wondering if you could just give an update on that of some of the companies and groups you're working with.
Yes, so we have a company called Switlick, and they're providing us all the gear, as in my vest and my suit. And I think I have to look at we have Bose who's sponsoring some equipment, and we have you guys who are bronze sponsor, and what are other sponsors? I'm sorry, I can't think of the names right now. But yeah, we have a few more sponsors.
Nope, just wanted to get a sense of some of the companies you're working with. I think this is a great cause, and I'm sure there are a lot of companies in at least our industry that I think would be great, great folks to do that. So, well, Anh-Thu Nguyen, thanks so much for coming on. This was very fun to talk about your journey. Excited to continue to follow you and do our small part to support you along the way.
Thank you so much, Jim. It's been an honor, and thank you so much for the opportunity to share my story and to share my mission to empower the next generation of Asian women. I
get more excited just talking to you about it. So this is great. The inspiration is just oozes through you. So great. Thanks again.
Thank you.
Thanks for listening to this week's episode. Please like and subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. We'd also love to hear from you in our comments or at lendingleaders@lfsoftwaresolutions.com. A very special thanks to Elena Gardner and Brian Rieger, who help produce our episodes each week. See you next time.